Well, it's a wonderful good morning to you, Grenada, Carriacou, Martinique, the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, to you wherever you are. It's exactly 9 a.m. in the studios of Classic 105.5 and 105.9. A wonderful, a terrific Thursday morning to you for this, the second day of the month of December. Welcome to The Point. And this edition is special in more ways than one, and certainly we're happy that you're here with us. I'm Joseph Cadore. Those of you that's probably joining us via the website, via, Classic Radio, GBN Television, our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, indeed it's a pleasure having you here as we start this conversation on eating, ensuring that we eat a balanced meal, we stay healthy during the pandemic, post-pandemic, as we go into the holiday season. And certainly when it comes to the conversation of staying healthy, the folks on Ireland that knows best about it is the wonderful folks inside of the GFNC. And certainly this morning, we say good morning to Lady Bristol, our Educational Promotional Officer from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. Good morning to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you, lady?
Hi, good morning to you. I'm Grenada and the entire listening and viewing public. I am fine, doing great. As you can see, I'm smiling. Yes, it's real.
It's
real.
the beauty. It is the beauty of being alive. It is a beauty. I know earlier on when we were talking, you attempted to treat some of your sorrows with mine, and then you get to realize, boy, my burdens, the kind of troubles I have, you don't even want it. So keep smiling. Keep smiling indeed. Folks, again, as you said, today we'll be talking about ensuring staying healthy. Our kids, and just to remind you that this conversation, it was initially conceptualized as part of activities for Child Month, in terms of getting our children to eat healthy as we go through the pandemic. But it certainly would be remiss of us if, as we inch closer to the holiday season, in any way would eliminate that. So let us start the conversation. Sharice, let's talk about eating healthy. There's always a question of what is a balanced diet, and that probably, at the end of the day, would probably set the tone for where this conversation actually would lead. So let's talk about balanced diets. Let's talk about it first with children, and then we'll expand it into young people, adults, as we go ahead. What is a balanced diet? How do I know that I'm eating the right stuff?
Okay, so a balanced diet, many of you probably heard the term, right? Maybe understood it, maybe not, but it is that balance we create in the terms of the different food groups. And that is to say the correct portioning of each of those grouping of foods. So in Grenada, we've launched our guidelines and we have 6 food groups. So we have our staples, that's our ground provision, pasta, bread, rice, our corn, it's in that group. Mm-hmm. We move to our vegetables. Sadly, some of our children, they're not eating the vegetables, and we may discuss it later on why. We have the fruit groups, fruits. That fruit group here, children, some of them, they'll have their particular fruit that is their favorite, all right? Uh-huh. And you need to create a balance. If your child is getting so much fruit, they're not getting any staple, right? That is their main source of energy. Then you think about the sugar, that rush of sugar. Yes, it's healthy, vitamin C, all the vitamins, minerals in there. We move to another food group, the peas, beans, and nuts. How many of our children eating that, right? You may say, okay, those on the vegetarian side, they're eating more of that than children who eat meat. The other food group is food from animals. Food from animals is anything you think possible from animals. So that could include meat, so chicken, beef, pork. We have fish, we have eggs, we have the dairy product in there, milk, cheese. Okay, fats and oils, another food group. Avocado. I see some trees in Grenada, ackee, it's in that food group as well. And the oils that we get in the shop that we use in our cooking, it's in that food group. So that's the 6 food groups. And once we have that balance, and when we say balance, that is variety there. Now, am I having more food from animals, or am I having less of a particular food group? And that's where the balance comes in. Okay? For children, we need to give them a variety. And starting from very young, we want to introduce the foods gradually. Okay? And if a child may refuse, and it's okay, parents, it's okay. Try another food. And then that food they disliked initially, try it a few days after, a week after. And you may see, okay, maybe I prepared it differently, or maybe it was new and the child wasn't used to that taste. So it's fine. But we need to create the balance and have them eating the right nutrients of the foods we have.
So I think it probably would be healthy to introduce the conversation now. So yes, we understand that they are the different food groups. The question now begs, proportion. What is the right proportion in terms of what a child is required for a child, and at the different age groups?
Okay, so just like ourselves, we use our hand to really guide our portion guide, right? Portion or eating. And just look at the babies, look at the toddlers, young children, adolescents. Looking at their fist, is it as big as an adult fist? So what you're eating as an adult, you're not giving the child half that amount. It will be way smaller. But they're eating a variety just as you as an adult. Okay? So you can take the initiative and use their fist. So that baby fist, you're saying that is what my baby is going to eat in X food group. So if you're starting with some cereal, so you make a porridge for the child, or you want to ensure you don't go beyond that fist, right? Try with 1 teaspoon at a time to 2 maximum, 2 times or 3 times a day. Okay, and that will create a good balance for the child, incorporating other foods as time goes by. Okay, then if you're looking at people, the term they want to measure,
okay,
then we look at the cupping. Okay, so we have a serving guide we've prepared, and if persons are interested, you can call or pass by and get a printout. So for each of the food groups, so I can give you an example. So for vegetables, for a 12-month-old, we have about 4 tablespoons of veg. So that could be some pumpkin, sauteed, some steamed pumpkin, or some callaloo. So combined together, right? And that's for the day. So if you choose to give the child some of that for lunch and maybe in the evening time, then you split it. So you may go 2.5 and then 1.5 to make your 4. Okay? And then for a child older, we're talking cup now. So that other child now will be getting a 1/2 cup, 3/4 cup for the day. So you see how gradually we're increasing, and children need the correct portion of foods to get the right nutrients for their development.
In terms of the proportion, will that be based on their age group or based on how active they are? Or is it that it doesn't matter?
Okay, so let's leave out the part doesn't matter. Let's focus on the age group. So for each age grouping, so we have children 6 months to 12 months. So that age grouping there, gradually they have that portion of food. Okay, so we're talking tablespoons, teaspoons. Then we move on to the children 1 year to 2 years. We're talking cups, 1/2 cup, 3/4 cup, right? And we're talking the serving guide. So 6 servings a day. So 1 serving of staple will be a 1/2 slice of bread for that child. Us as adults, a serving would be 1 slice of bread. Okay?
I'm smiling. You start talking about slice of bread now, and all of a sudden you start thinking, slice of bread. Then how many servings do I need?
And then you spoke of so as an adult, yes, your activity level, just as children, they're more active. So you'll be feeding them 4, 5, 6 times a day, compared to an adult, we'll be eating 3, maybe for the most, or maybe 5, based on our goals and our health status. But for children, we tend to feed them more for their activity level and their development.
Let me ask you though, Chris, because there is this culture that a nice, round, chubby, tightrope baby is a healthy baby. And if you meet and it's just a stigma, you meet a child and he's seemingly on the leaner side, you start watching him as though, you're watching the child as though, gee, you're not feeding the child? Do you think that's where that culture comes from? We get into this habit of excessive feeding of children because we think, wow, he or she needs to look nice and rosy to be healthy?
Yes. Well, that's partly, yes, true that we have that culture. And what I must add as well, we have to think about the parents. So if mommy and daddy are small persons, normal BMI, but on the closer end to being underweight, obviously that child may have the tendency to have a smaller weight compared to a person who is overweight or obese. That child most likely may have a heavier weight compared to another child, right? So we look at the parents as well. Then the breastfeeding. What was the period of best breastfeeding for the child? Was it exclusively 6 months, nothing else? Was it formula fed? Because we see a difference in weight, children who are breastfed and children who are formula fed. And we would really appreciate that parents, mothers, and maybe even close family members encourage women who new mothers or persons breastfeeding to breastfeed, as this is the child's first line of defense, good nourishment for everything, and you have a correct portion. When you talk about balance, breast milk is best for that.
So there's
and with the theme for this Child Month, well, we're in December, but for November, celebrating Child Month, we want children's care and education matter. Let children, so we want them to grow. And how are they growing? With correct proportion of food, right? Proper nutrition, and we want them to be active, have their motor skills involved. So when you're feeding them, let them feed themselves. Don't, force them to feed either. We want them to flourish. So in their school, right, they may be at home with their friends, and so you want them to flourish in terms of shining bright in their academic life, in their social life, and we have to think about that.
Well, that is really quite interesting. And sitting in the middle of that conversation, that of the showing that she herself has a balanced diet while breastfeeding.
True, because we unfortunately, some children in infancy, we have a problem of anemia, right? So their iron levels are so low compared to what they need for a normal child of their age. And the reason being the mother's diet, inadequate, intake of iron-rich foods. And that can be passed on to the child. And we can also see the delay in complementary feeding. So they delay feeding the child. So they may start feeding the child at 9 months, or they feed the child foods that are not iron-rich. And iron is very necessary, important for transporting oxygen and for the development of the brain. And if the child is not getting that, moody, development problems, is going to be sluggish. And we want our children to grow and flourish.
So I'm getting this sense, though, because you hear the conversation, and it's not that we are lowering the conversation over child or children's development. We keep hearing that breast is best, breastfeeding. But most people tend to think it just as a culture, whereby they say breastfeed for at least 6 months, or we take it almost like it's a cliche, you have to do it, without really understanding the significance of why it's important in the child's development. And that must be underscored.
Yes. So with the breast milk, as I mentioned, there's a complete, so it's a complete food, you could say, for the child. Complete nutrient food. And that child, you have water in there, you have correct portion of protein, and you're thinking of their digestive system. Is it going to be hampered? No, beneficial. So the antibodies and so from the breast milk, this is going to be very beneficial for the child's digestive tract developing. We think of their kidneys not being fully developed, their liver. So this food here can slowly adapt when complementary food is being introduced. So it's very important that mothers give the child the correct food for their age, and from 0 to 6 months, breast milk. Then we start from 6 months, slowly going into soft, that's pureed foods. Then we move on to by 8 months, mashed. Then by 10 months, so we have semi-solid. By 1 year, they should be having solid foods that they can eat on their own.
It's really, really. Is it ever too early to introduce a child to solid food, or is it possible that you can complement breastfeeding with the puree and those other stuff that you talk about? When should one start?
Solid.
Yeah.
Yes. So it is advised to have the breast milk mixed with the formula if parents start to feed at 6 months, right? So, or with the food. So if they're making some porridge or so, you can use the breast milk to do that. Think about your child's intestine again, their stomach. Having hard, solid foods before is fully developed, what can happen? So you may have irritation, they may have diarrhea because of that, that rush of the texture can really hamper the food being absorbed, the nutrients. So you want to give the child's stomach some time to develop and the other organs so that they can process this slowly, right? So delay that solid foods, work with the recommended time. And for some parents, you can introduce as early as 5 months. Some go as early as 4 months, but we advise best, 6 months, give the child 6 months, okay? In other countries where we see nutrient deficiency, severe nutrient deficiency, breast milk may not be sufficient. So then the mother then has to give them fortified supplements, add foods earlier so the child can get the correct nutrients to correct the deficiency.
We live in a culture where children now there is less of breastfeeding, and we get into the culture of everything that comes in a bottle. Your thoughts on that as a nutritionist?
Yeah.
And when I say in a bottle, I mean pre-packaged, the imported ones. So
we have been encouraging and promoting the use of our local foods. And if you're thinking of buying things from a bottle that's been imported, what's going to happen to our produce? It's going to stay there probably and rot, or are we exporting? Hardly, right? So we have to support our own. And parents, new parents maybe, learn to prepare food. So the culture has been that preparing food is difficult and I don't have time. But then COVID hits, you have so much time. People are on TikTok making videos. And yes, they may be making their learning, but this is the time that you have to use to prepare for the family. And your children, they are the future. and you want their development to be of optimal high standard. So try your best to work with avoiding those foods in bottles. And why I say that, what is in the product? Some of them, they are standardized. So they have little sugar in there, little fat, but the children, they need the fat. Sugar should be after 2 years, fine, but the fat for their development. So you need them to have this in their food, in the meal, the family meal. Having the bottles, them sucking on a bottle, the mouth. Are they going to even learn how to chew foods? Right? Something that's already prepared. When is that child going to learn to chew and develop their motor skills by touching the food and putting in their mouth? This is what we want for the children. We want their brain to develop and make a sense of independence. So you hear adult, I'm an independent man, an independent woman. Let our children be independent as well. We sit with them though and ensure that they're eating, because we don't want to leave them alone. Chances they may choke. Okay.
I mean, the more you would delve into the conversation, and I'm assuming that the earlier you introduce to your children to our local foods, they will develop a natural appreciation and a taste for it. If they grew up with something in a bottle, then the processed food, that's what the taste bud gets adapted to. But you just mentioned, Ms. Bristol, sugar. And sugar, certainly, we have to talk about sugar, because at the end of the day, we live in a society where these diseases, diabetes, we've seen increasing now cases of diabetes, not just in our adults, but juvenile and diabetes. Let's talk about that today, that growing trend, and how do we counter it before we take the break. Juvenile diabetes.
Okay. Right. So as parents, we already developed our sugary taste, right? But as children, they're young. They don't know sweet from sour or non-sweet. So you're introducing that food, they develop that. So what we advise is that you delay the introduction of added sugar foods. You can give your fruits, they have natural sugars. The fruit juices, however, if the child is constantly drinking, and they're not eating, the nutritional status of that child would be depleted, right? Meaning they would have low supply of the main nutrients that they need, calcium, iron, the vitamins. But if we try our best to have that child get foods with natural sugars, solid fruits, that is best. We talk of dental caries if they're introduced with all the sticky foods and they have sugar, that can affect their teeth. So young children, and you see majority of their teeth already gone, right? 2 years. Then slowly you can introduce very little. Then a child may refuse when you give them the added sugar because they got so used to the natural flavor of the sweetness. And we can prevent diabetes here, prevent the onset of obesity, childhood obesity. And children are very active. Have them active during that period so we can see the rates of obesity, the rates of diabetes are slowly going down.
And indeed, that is a concern for not just for the parent, but I know even for health officials, because you do not want to have a state where you have these alarmingly increasing numbers of juvenile diabetes. It certainly means if the problem starts now, it is a futuristic problem that's going to affect our workforce down the road. And certainly, the onus is on us adults, parents, to address that issue and to limit and get into the culture of introducing healthy feeding practices to our children. 25 minutes gone past the hour. Speaking here with the nutritionist Ms. Bristol from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council. We take a quick commercial break, reminding you that we can entertain your question and comments via our WhatsApp portal 435-2041, or which is the same number as you can see on screen for the studio, or certainly those of you that is on social media, Facebook, YouTube, and our website. We can facilitate your comments there. We take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Keep it right on the clock. 27 minutes gone past the hour in the morning time. Ms. Bristol, before we were to break, we were highlighting a growing trend, that of the issue of diabetes, and not just in the adult population, but increasingly juvenile diabetes. And we're saying that it's a problem that must be curbed now, but it starts with the introduction of good, healthy practices from a very early age. But there is a reverse. There's some who make the argument that, listen, we're telling our folks, eat local, eat healthy. So we introduce them quite early to the yams, all of the ground provisions with the starch. And some are arguing, but hello, therein lies our problem. What would your comment, your response to that be?
Yes. So there, the answer again, back to balanced diet, and that balance for the child. So if you're feeding your child lots of starches, when that's broken down, it's to glucose, and that sugar can have a spike, and it can cause, the pancreas to be overworked. So it's trying to keep up, really. Secreting insulin, and then it's exhausted. Can't do anything more. So the excess sugar would remain in the bloodstream, and that child over time, if not even, you're not bringing the child to the health center or the clinic, then you may have the child coming down with the problem. But if we are constantly feeding our child the right way, creating a balance, and children, they're not getting much vegetables. The vegetables help to really slow the rate of, and they're rich in fiber, slow the rate of the sugar spiking. So if they're getting that, they're getting some fat in there, more delay in the sugar rising, then that is a plus for the child. And as adults, you can do the same, okay? We have been working with daycare centers as well as the schools in showing them the portion guides for different age groups, for the different foods, right? Different food groups as well. And we've given them recipes, we give them a menu, and this would help them to know different foods. You could use yam to make a variety of dishes that the children would love. We have been working with the school feeding program.
Right.
And if we think about it, Children are going off now on vacation. No school feeding. So what are they going to be fed at home? So we have to create that consistent balance. So if they're getting balance at school, balance at the daycare, but at home, they're not getting it.
It's going to make up.
We have to reassess ourselves, parents, and think of our actions and have the children eating the vegetables mostly, little of the staples, but they need the energy. So you're feeding them a few times for the day more so they can be active.
Okay, just hold that point right there. There's a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. You're live. Your question, please.
Good morning, sir. First caller. First time I'm calling your program.
Thank you.
I'm listening to the dietitian, and she's so right on point. When she said kids, babies, children, young kids do not know what sugar or salt tastes like as young kids. As a parent, I never give my kids any sugar nor salt. Never gave them sugar or salt in their porridge, in their food. Never did that, and up to now, they don't use sugar nor salt. And there's a lot of things I cook without salt. Things like provision, rice. I put a little salt in callaloo, a little bit in meat. But there's a lot of other things that I don't use salt, and I have no problem. And I'm talking about from the time I was 21. I got married 21, and my kids all grown up, never use salt in a lot of things, and they never had sugar as babies growing up, and they never had salt. And they also do a lot of exercises. I notice a lot of young people and people with Grenadians with diabetes, and the sugar, the things they eat, and lack of exercise. And that's why it's two pairs. But she's so right in a lot of things that she's saying. I think I'm a exercise freak.
Okay.
I live in True Blue, and I go to the gym for years and years and years. But now that with everything else with the gym, I walk from True Blue to the airport and back every single day.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Really appreciate your call.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank you so much, Paula.
And
Testimony there.
And there's so many other stories. I mean, I too have my own stories. I mean, but the truth is, it comes back again to culture, and it starts with a paradigm shift. If we change the culture, we can change the action, and then have an impact on the end result. And I think that's what is critically important. The conversation, Bristol, about the vegetables. Vegetables, naturally, they're not something you're going to go yummy about. Nobody's going to get all excited about kale and cucumbers and all those different things. But I'm certain you would agree as a nutritionist, there are creative ways, and I've learned that, there are creative ways that you can introduce vegetables to children that makes the process, make it an exciting encounter that they look forward to it. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So let's go back and think of before the vegetable reaches the plate or the kitchen or the refrigerator or the sink, wherever you'd have it, the land. Have the children, if they're old enough, involved in the process. So it could be just a small drum that you would put some seedlings in there, or you could do it from the seed, and they watch it grow together, right? That child seeing the process. They understand where food comes from. And that vegetable, when it's mature and is ready for harvest, let them be part of that. Then in the kitchen, have them involved in the preparation. And they appreciate more and more. So from the initial phase of that fruit or that vegetable, so it could be tomato, which is fruit vegetable, but we class it as a vegetable. We can have them doing the cabbage, lettuce, then have them maybe, if they can help, put it in maybe small shapes. So if you're doing some slices, you as a parent cut, so don't have the child use any knife. They can do simpler, less harmful, task. Washing can be one, maybe putting it on the tray, on a platter, and they can appreciate it. Now, you as a parent, the first time preparing this, you can try doing it one type of way. So you can put it in the oven with a little oil. So the carrots, you can make bacons with it, like slice it very thinly. Little bacon, little oil. You can use coconut oil or a little olive oil on a sheet in the oven. Thin strips. When it's finished, have the child enjoy. Say, this is our carrot bacon. So they appreciate this vegetable type and that have a nice little crunch to it. Then we can use that carrot now and add it into a casserole. We can grate it and let the child maybe help you layer it on the casserole. Put the cheese on top. Sitting now together as a family, you cannot make pumpkin and say, okay, here you are, here you go. And you there eating some just meat or so, or something else. The child now would see that, what is going on? Why am I eating this and you're eating that? Is it something wrong with this?
Right.
It's just better. So children, they're inquisitive and they would want to have what you're having instead, and they'll leave theirs. So as adults, they see us as role models. So eat with the child, eat the same thing. And that way we have them eating the vegetables. If not, then they're not eating it. Put it in soups, their favorite dish. So your child may love to have burgers. You can do a bean burger. So if they love burgers and you want them to get the vegetables, add it in the burger. And that way we have them eating the foods we want them to eat to get their nutrients.
And I'm certain that you can find creative ways to add, let's say, whether it's carrots, cucumbers, all of those different things, add it into different meals, whether you're probably giving them maybe cheese, make a nice little cheese paste, add it into it, and introduce even the different fruits in terms of drinks for them.
You can blend and make smoothies. Some children, they love milk. And milk is important because of the calcium, but they need their vitamin D for that to be absorbed, right, to get to the bones. So you want to have a strong structure for the child, not a feeble, right, but a strong structure. So you create that foundation, calcium. If they love the milk, then you can blend something with it and have them drink that. So they're having, I'm having this milk, and give them the opportunity to name the drink. Right?
Okay.
And that way they can spread the word to their friends. Their friends may go tell their parents, and word spread. You know how we are as Grenadians, as adults. It starts very young though. So they can spread the word around, and we can see a change, that shift in the intake, the dietary intake of our younger population.
And I'm certain you would agree that it has to be a culture, a habitual thing, not whereby we have vegetables maybe just on Sundays, but introduce it to them on a daily basis, even as snacks, whatever it is that you're giving them. If it's just, let's say, just a slice of cucumbers, you're making a sandwich for them, and maybe they like hot dogs or whatever the case you might decide. Why not gradually add it in there for them?
Very true. That's what we can all do. And I've seen some children and they report, Miss, I love cucumbers. Mommy makes it all the time, right? And she does it this way, she does it that way. So children, they're watching, they're observing. And once they're seeing that variety in one item and many ways to prepare it, in different shapes also as well, it creates attraction. Make the plate as well pretty enough. Children love colors. They love colors, right? And if we eat it like a rainbow, let the children eat like a rainbow as well,
right,
and help them to create that rainbow on the plate. Do not have just potatoes there and then you have some beans. That two colors, or you may have cauliflower and potatoes. Then you look and the child looks at that and, yesterday I had carrots, I had red beans, I had some callaloo. What's this today? you know, already that brain is clicking and memory is forming. So you want to
Right.
create the memory, yes, and you want to create that pleasure and for them to eat. And I didn't mention, but we have to have a schedule for the children. Don't let them tell you, I want to eat now, 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 all different hours of the day. Try to create a schedule. So as they grow, they know it's breakfast time now. We have a snack time, we have a lunch time. So when they go to school, they won't be disturbing the teacher and say, Miss, I'm hungry. Miss, I want to eat. Miss, because that's what they're used to at home. And as parents, we give them that liberty. Yes, we want them to be independent. We want them to make choices. But for eating and preventing childhood obesity and diabetes, we want to have a schedule of eating.
Right. How would you respond? In the conversation with developing a child, it's not just about the meals, but even with numeracy. And some have encouraged that maybe it's part of getting a child to get into the vegetables. When you start, let's say, numeracy, literacy with them. So if you start, you have a numbered child at home, there's carrots on it. Let's spell carrots. CARROT. You give them a carrot, and that you think would be a nice way to make them make the connection and being able to appreciate what a carrot is. So intermingling different forms of learning as part of the dietary complement.
I love that as well. And part of our guidelines, we have to let's share and enjoy family meals.
Right.
And that here, the benefits, you communicate. Children learn how to communicate. And they, so here you're teaching them. So while they eat, you turn off all distractions. No television, no radio, no computer, no tablet, no phones. You and the child. And you educate them. Why are they eating that food? How is the food formed maybe? So you may do that during the preparation. But while eating, as you mentioned, the spelling of it. So children learn to spell. And they learn, the ABC as well and phonics. How words, how you pronounce it. And then seeing it. So then apart from eating, you can take them on a side now and read with them. And say, today, what did we have? Look at the word again. And, from memory. And that's how we have children at a very young age reading. Right? And it's what we feed them. But if a child is being fed the high processed foods, the sodas, and these foods, they tend to reduce the absorption of important vital nutrients. That's how we have a development sluggish, we have slow delay, we have the retardation of growth. So they're not growing as they should, they're not performing in school as they should, right? But eating together and educating them, that's the best way to have them appreciate vegetables.
Appreciating vegetables, we had a conversation. There's always trying to determine which is the healthier meal of the day, and that's an ongoing conversation. Well, not for you nutritionists, but let's talk about complementing the breakfast. We're starting with breakfast. What should an ideal breakfast be as you get a child prepared for the day, and even as an adult? For the purpose of concentration, those sort of things, as you go through the day.
Okay, so all of us, our brain works on our primary source carbohydrates, right? That's the staples, the starches, the beans, the vegetables, the fruits, all contain carbohydrates. So ensure that that is part of that breakfast. So it can be a cereal that you're preparing. Add some milk in there. You have a little protein. You have some calcium, right? You have liquid, so water for transportation of the nutrients is important as well. Then we look at a fruit. So if we have a whole wheat cereal, the children, they're eating maybe whole wheat cereal, or it can be some farine, it can be some cornmeal porridge. Ensure that they're eating a fruit with that cereal. Okay? Now, for the younger ones, you want to give them softer fruits until they can really manage with the hard fruits. So, banana is a soft fruit that they can have. Watermelon, yes. Then you can move on to the harder ones, golden apple, But because of the spikes and so on the seed, you may want to slice that for them. So give children things that they can have for their age appropriate slices. So for the younger ones, you want to mash. For the a bit older, you want to dice or cube them, slice them. And for some, you can give them whole, wash properly as well. So you want to ensure safety, food safety is there, and it is practiced. Okay? We look at another breakfast. You can do bread. A child may have white bread, no problem, but once they're having vegetable or some whole grain products to get their fiber, it's important. With that bread, you can put some peanut butter on there for the child. You can maybe do some eggs, right? Ensure the egg is cooked properly to prevent any problem of foodborne illness. So you have an egg sandwich, then you may want to add a slice of tomato on there. If the child is old enough, some lettuce leaves, right? Have them involved. So maybe some red bell peppers, and you have all the vitamins in there. The drink, it can be a cup of hot chocolate, it can be a cup of whole milk. So if the child is older than 2, you can move into giving the child skim milk.
Right.
But younger, you want to give them the whole milk because their brain needs the fat for development.
Right.
Okay? Then after eating that meal, the child then would have a good sustenance of energy until snack time. If they don't get a proper breakfast, then you'll find them hungry in half an hour time, in an hour time, and you wonder, well, I just feed you. But what did you feed your child? Was it just some staples only? So they're not having that balance. They didn't get some oil in there, no fat. So you can put some peanut butter or avocado spread. So when we have avocado in season, you can mash it and spread it on your toast for the child. And that way they can enjoy it and get the nutrients and get the energy for next meal, which is snack. And the snack can be, as you mentioned, carrot sticks. It can be some popcorn, maybe 5 years and more. So you want to prevent choking. Can be some trail mix,
Right.
nuts, and so in there. Avoid giving them the raisins much because of the stickiness on the teeth. And if they're going to school, then they may not be brushing their teeth, and that may linger there, and the cavities might start forming. So you want to give them things that they can eat when they can remove it.
Indeed, less sugar, more natural stuff. And let's take the last few minutes, Ms. Bristol, to talk about some of the deficiencies that a child can develop. We talk about dental caries, we talk about lack of concentration, but in terms of actual ailments, in terms of the different food groups, shortage, removal of it, the absence of it from the body, and some of the dire consequences in terms of the child's development. Can we focus on that in the next few minutes? What are some of the common ones?
Yes, so we have the problem of a protein deficiency, and that's because the child is not eating adequate amounts, and our protein sources would be from meat, as many of us would know it. Also, a plant base would be our dried peas and beans and some of our nuts. Very little in our whole grain products, right? If the child is not getting that, then we see the stomach area. So we have different types of protein deficiency. Marasmus, we have kwashiorkor, and some of the children may learn this in school. And that's how education comes in. Ministry of Education having that in the syllabus. Grade 6, grade 4, grade 5, I believe in the primary level, they're doing home economics. And if we're teaching them, certain deficiencies, so vitamin C deficiency, the scurvy, problems with the gum, is bleeding a lot. We have poor wound healing. We don't have enough vitamin C in the children's body. Then we move on to, I mentioned the iron before, iron deficiency. And if the child is having that deficiency, think about their diet. That child, is a child having any calcium? So that's milk or cheese with the iron-rich foods. That can reduce the absorption, of the iron. you want to boost the absorption, have them enjoy vitamin C rich foods with it. So if they're eating some beans, some callaloo, ensure they have a mango on the side or an orange on the side or a banana to get that vitamin, that mineral, or that iron. Okay? We have vitamin A deficiency as well. So sometimes, I haven't seen much of it, but in the other world, they test for all different varieties of deficiencies.
Right.
So we may see that. Vitamin D deficiency as well can happen, but we don't know. As we have our children indoors so much, we're not giving them vitamin D rich food like egg yolks, sardines, or cod liver oil. They're not getting that, and they're not getting sunlight. They're indoors a lot. Vitamin D deficiency can be prevalent among our young children. We may not know it. Some of the labs in Grenada, you can go test for it. It's a bit expensive for some persons. So we can see how we can really reduce the cost and have it readily available that people can know what is being deficient. But once we have a variety of foods in the children's diet, deficiency, we don't have to worry too much about. You may see symptoms, some signs.
Right.
Look at the child's color of the hair. Is it red? Is it thinning? Is it the child's skin is paling? How active is it? The child too fatigued always? Bring the child to the clinic. Let the child be seen by a doctor or even the nurse in the community. So further investigations can be done.
Well, we're getting ready to wrap. Pimples. Let's talk about this heading to the young people now. And pimples, that stage we know what's happening in the body. But just maybe we can offer some assistance. Are there certain foods that you can eat, things that you can do that would help to reduce on that horrid state of development when it is all over? And young guys, young ladies in particular, they probably figure, why do I have to go through this?
So sometimes we have to think about genetics, right? So I'm blessed. Growing up, I haven't really had any problems with acne or pimples or so, but with hormonal changes and so, then, closer to your menstrual cycle, then you may see you getting pimples. And some people, not really much scientific evidence though, related to the diet. So while it may have a link, we have to think of also our genetics. So what can we do though? Avoid the high fatty foods, right? We can avoid the high salty foods, the high sugar foods, the carbonated drinks. And in the schools, it has been banned, the carbonated products, the sweet beverages. So if the children are having moderate quantities and not so regular, then you may see some change. There are products they may use. Some people may have some bush to rub on their body, some type of soap, but ensure that it's clinically approved, right, before you irritate your skin.
Right.
It's the largest organ, and the face is so sensitive. That's why sometimes you can just wash the face, okay, and you have your eyes there, and you don't want anything irritating your eyes, all right? So for the adolescents, you can try doing that. And avoid putting products on your skin that, is not popular. Because when I was studying, there was this soap that persons, they say, oh, this will get your skin shiny and glowing. Try this soap, and my goodness, the entire face was covered in acne. So it caused an irritation, and then we had that, it was there for a long time. So try products that clinically approved, something that has a label, the ingredients maybe that you can look up. Because all our teenagers now, they are searching, and you have access to the internet.
Before we go now, the importance of water for all of us.
Water.
Across all age groups.
And that, again, is another guideline that we encourage our Grenadian public over the age of 2 to ensure they're having water. That's for the guideline, but it is for all ages. So for babies, Less than 6 months, there's no need for water. Breast milk has that. Okay? Over 6 months, you need that water supply. Why? Preventing constipation. Because if you're bulking up on a lot of high fiber foods, that bulk is going to just be constipating you. So it's hardening there and no way for it to ease the passage. For adults as well and older children, transporting nutrients around the body. Water comes in. Keeping yourself hydrated. So our bodies, you have 60% of water, some people as much as 75%. Some, if your body is under 40%, then you're really dehydrated. Certain conditions among our young children, the water, you may want to reduce. But with salt and water, a good balance, you would have a good weight. And it helps to maintain a stable, normal weight as well. Our joints, children moving up and down. If the joints is always cracking and you're hearing that song, like an old, a machine that crick, crick, noise, it needs oiling, we'll say.
Right.
Now, our joints, it needs watering.
Okay.
So it needs that water to help that cushion. So it creates that nice cushion. So we have, when we bend our elbow, you don't hear crack, crack, crack. You just a nice flow and no pain. Okay? So water helps with that. Eyes, no burning sensation. When we go out in the sun, good. We look at our urine. What color is it? Pale yellow. Dark yellow, please drink some more water.
You have nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose.
Enough. And we have it in our pipes. I can't say it's free, but from the rain for people in Carrico and PT Martinique, we have the supply of rain. So there you collect it in your systems or your water tanks. You have your millions in there to really clean the water, and you have your good supply. It's raining now, thank God, but other times they don't have much as we in Grenada. And what do? We waste the water. So let us conserve and use the water for its purpose. Cleaning and drinking mostly. And clean water. Get children to drink safe water. Boil it maybe.
Great, we've run out of time, but I'm promising you that you are going to be back. If not you, maybe Lady Brung. As we get closer to Christmas, we wanted to really touch on some of the healthy practices as we get into the holiday season, as we look at the hypertensive cases and the diabetic cases. But Cherise Bristol from the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council, she's a nutritionist by qualification, and she is the promotions officer. Thank you. Wishing you all the best. Thanks for being on To The Point. You take care.
Thank you so much, and you take care as well. Bye, everyone.
All the best to you. And for everyone that contributed in one way or the other and being part of the program via the different platforms, via Facebook, YouTube, even on WhatsApp, we say thanks for being part of the program. Until then, JC loves you. I'm out of here for now.